My dear students, I like to welcome you for this online course in geriatrics for medical students organized by a group of educational and research in geriatrics. At the outset, I congratulate and also thank Dr. Alka Ganesh Madam and Dr. Pravadikari Madam for giving me this opportunity. I am Dr. Anand Ambali. I bring greetings to you from Shri B.M. Pachal Medical College Hospital Research Center, BLG, deemed university in Vijaypura. We are having geriatric clinic from the year 2007, and I will be sharing certain important facts about elder abuse in next 15 to 18 minutes. So most of us will not be aware of what elder abuse means. You must have seen in the videos or on the news that how the older people are being treated and how they are sent out from the home, or how they are denied the basic rights like food and clothing. So all that constitutes elder abuse. And why we should know elder abuse from a physician or a medical point of view? Most of you may tell, sir, elder abuse is a social issue. Yes, it was considered as a social issue earlier, but now it is a medico-social issue. Okay. So coming back to the objectives of this discussion. At the end of 20 minutes, you should have awareness about what elder abuse means, what are the types of elder abuse, how they present to you as a clinician or as a student when you talk to the older person in the geriatric ward or the medicine ward, or any of the wards of your hospital. If you come across older people, you should always have something called elder abuse. Is the patient being abused in the home, in the background of your mind? Not all elders are abused, but at least you should have this knowledge, because this is not taught in the medical colleges. That's why we have incorporated this topic in your course. And at least at the end of the talk, you should be able to identify and apply the preventive and counseling measures the next time when you see a case who is being abused. Okay, that should be our objectives. Now, the main disclaimer that I want to do is this discussion is not intended to show our seniors in a negative role. So one should be aware that I'm not trying to show that our seniors are bad or they are being kept in the dark. So what at the end of the lecture, you will come to know that both the abuser and abused are equally responsible for this. Now, coming back to know this, why we want to discuss regarding elder abuse, because a lot of literature comes that the older people in India are the happiest in the world. Then why we should talk this? Yes, we have a very strong cultural background. We have very good caring system in the home. Our daughter-in-laws, our daughters, children, grandchildren, they take care of their parents, grandparents very well. But there is something like 5 to 10% of the population, older population, are facing the abuse. Maybe because somewhere we are missing the link. So we have very strong culture called Matru-deva Bhava and Pitru-deva Bhava, where we treat our older people as a god in them. So that is what we are now doing here. So we want to know that all our elders should have the respected, which is their due. Now, why this talk again? So there is a less awareness regarding elder abuse among the clinicians and the seniors because we are not taught about the elder abuse in medical scenario. Even when I did my MBBS and MD medicine, we are not much aware about elder abuse, but only when after completing the geriatric medicine, we could know what elder abuse means. And then since then we have been trying to create awareness among the medical staff, nursing staff, and most of the paramedicals and even the police personnel. Earlier it was called a social problem, but now it's a medical social problem because the elder who is abused has many ill effects on the health, which we will discuss in coming slides. And very importantly, the clinicians are not aware about abuse. Even if many are abused, they don't want to discuss about abuse because it takes a lot of time. It needs multiple counseling sessions. And the other part is the older people doesn't want to speak about what's wrong is happening in the home. So that is how the elder abuse sometimes or most of the times will not be able to be identified. So with this talk, we like to create awareness among the budding clinicians or budding doctors who are like you, who are part of this course. The World Health Organization defines elder abuse as a single or repeated act or lack of appropriate action occurring in any relationship where there is expectation of trust, which causes harm or distress to an older person. Of course, it is seen all over the world, and it is commonly seen, especially in the higher strata of the society and the middle class, very rarely seen in the lower strata or the lower class of the people. Now, going back to the historical background, way back in 1975 in London, a few clinicians, they reported something called granny battering, where the older people were abused, and then the whole sociologists came into action, and they do a lot of research in this. And as you all know, we the Indians are the best in importing things, especially which are bad to our health and society. We also started importing and started abusing our older people in the home as well in the society. Now, what I want to convey is not all the senior citizens are abused. I can tell you that up to 90% of the senior citizens in the society and the families are safe. They are well taken care of, and they are treated very nicely by their children and daughter-in-laws. Some incidents of abuse does take place, especially when the finance matter is concerned. We will discuss that why that happens. Many senior citizens take abuse as a lightly or friendly. Even if the son scolds the father, he is just chalta hai. They take lightly. They don't make an issue. Then after some time it settles. Issues will be settled, and they will again stay happy. Very few take it serious, and for few it is inevitable. Like the older people, especially the widowers, those who are bedridden, and those who are totally dependent upon their children for all their financial needs and their daily food, they have to they accept what happens to them. If they are even abused, they think that it is my part of my old age and I have to accept it. So for them it is inevitable, and they will be staying with the abuser every day in and day out. So for them it becomes an inevitable. And most of the times the abuse happens every day with the same person. They are living with the abuser, the son is there, daughter-in-law is there, they may quarrel, they may financially abuse, they may psychologically abuse, they may physically abuse them. So that happens every day with the same person. And in a given period of time, the old man can go across multiple types of abuse in the over a period of time. The same person, the same old man, maybe like example, financial abuse. He might have been abused financially 6 months back by forging the check, or then he will be now psychologically abused that he will not be allowed to go home to meet somebody. So over a period of time, the same old person can be abused in various forms in the same home. Okay. Now, as I told you, not all poor old people are at risk of abuse. Only there are few older people who are at risk. Those who are suffering from mental illness, those themselves are alcohol abusers, they don't have a social support, not a good friend circle that visits their home, they are bedridden, they have got high expectations like financial and emotional from their children or their in-laws. Being widow or widower is the biggest risk factor for abuse and has nothing to support family. If the old man has nothing to support family, he is being abused. If he has a good pension, he will not be abused. In fact, I have seen that my patients who are having pension, they are well taken care because half of the full monthly expenses runs through his pension. Now, what are the protective factors in older people who cannot? If the older person has got a strong relation with the people of varying social status like MLA, local MLA, or the police personnel, or he himself is from army or police, so their children tend to be afraid of him because he has good relations with the higher authorities. And he has a good coordination of resources and service. He has many friends to visit his home regularly. So that prevents, it acts as a protective factor for the older people being abused. And being active, if the older person is active on his own, he moves around, he does his own activities, he is less likely to be abused. And being independent, both physically and financially, if he is not dependent upon his children for financial abuse, he will not be abused. And if he has got a power of attorney, if he keeps his willpower or will secretly and reveals to be revealed only after his death, he will be not be abused till he dies, because the children wants his the transfer of his property to their name. But some children do physically or psychologically abuse them for want of money or selling the property. Now, why older people do not report? Because the older people, they are afraid of retaliation. The moment I go back home, again I will be hit or I will be psychologically abused. And it leads to the worsening situation in the home. And sometimes if you keep telling all the people in your colony or file a police complaint, the older people think that he will be abandoned somewhere in the railway station or in a old age home or in some place where he may not be getting the support. And we see commonly as a clinician, what we see is most of the older people are institutionalized. The son comes, just gives the food and goes back, get the drugs, gives and goes back. And when we plan for discharge, nobody turns out. They want him to stay in institution. Equally, the older person also will be happy to stay in the institution. He doesn't want to go to home because he will be happy meeting interns, medical PG students, doctors, nurses, and everybody. He will be so happy in the institution because at least he is free of being abused, which is a day-to-day process that happens in their home. So most of the people, they fear institution, they fear abandonment. That's why they avoid reporting. Now, who abuses most? Looking at the world over, it's the son. The first son is the most culprit who abuses their parents most, then the daughter-in-law and the spouse. One study has shown that it is the child who abuses more. 47% of the abuse is by the son, and then by the spouse, and then by the daughter-in-law or grandchildren. So it is son who abuses the most. Now, what are the types of elder abuse? So there are 5 types of elder abuse. One is physical abuse, second psychological abuse, third is sexual abuse, fourth is financial exploitation, and fifth is neglect or abandonment. So these are the 5 types of elder abuse, and we will discuss in depth about this. Now, which among these is the commonest all over the world? Psychological abuse and financial abuse are very, very common around the world as far as older people are concerned. Okay. Now, what is the difficulty in identifying abuse? The difficulty is, as I keep telling, that clinicians are not trained to identify abuse, not trained to identify abuse, and not to trained to deal and identify the abuse. So that is where we lack. And even older people do not reveal openly. Unless the old man has confidence in you, unless it has a faith in you, and before telling that he is being abused in home, he will take a promise from you, sir, please promise me that you will not reveal to my son or my daughter-in-law that I have told you like this. So unless they don't develop a trust or a faith in you, they will not reveal about the abuse that is having on them to you. Now, coming back to the types of elder abuse, physical abuse. Again, here the older man is being physically abused, as I shown in the photograph. They will be coming with the signs of being restrained, rope marks on the wrist, and sometimes caregiver may not allow you to meet the older person because they have some injuries, unexpected injuries that you are seeing. And when you examine the patient, you see that there are always a bilateral pattern of bruising, either on the thighs or on the arm. So what happens is when older person is attacked, somebody tries to attack him, what he does is he brings both the arms to the front for his support or as a security region. Whereas if a young person like you and me, if we are being attacked, we try to bring only one hand to avoid the injury. Whereas old man brings both the hands up. So that's why when the bruises occur, it occurs both simultaneously on both the wrist or ankles or whatever he has put forward to protect his injuries. Then coming to the psychological abuse, here the older person is isolated in the home. He is not allowed to meet his friend. He is not allowed to visit marriages or attend to the social gatherings. So this is where the patient is where called as psychological abuse. He has been isolating and they are terrorizing. If you go out, I will hit you. If you go out, then it's not good for you. Like that, they keep terrorizing him, and that becomes a psychological abuse. Then coming to the financial abuse. This is very important from clinician point of view also, that older people, their bank accounts are being the sign being forged, and a lot of things, their financial things are abused either by the own son or daughter-in-law, and they steal the cash or goods. What happens most importantly, they force the elder's signature. And what is the role of our as a clinician is, when the children comes to ask you that please issue a certificate that my father cannot sign, he is very weak, he cannot sign, so that I can produce in the bank. A clinician should never do that. Clinician should never do that. you should always examine the patient, and unless he has a stroke, but nowadays even the banks accept the thumb impression for the signature. So please don't issue a certificate stating that my father cannot sign the signature for the children who come for a certificate. So suspicious changes in the wills or power of attorney, titles and policies will definitely tell you that the older person is undergoing financial abuse. So that is what we should know. And sexual abuse, it is very rare in India, but very common in Western countries, showing an elderly the pornographic material and touching their private parts without their consent. So all these things constitute the what is called a sexual abuse, and they come with an abnormal bleeding at the vagina or anal bleed, or the blood markings in the underwear or the bruised breast can be signs of sexual abuse. Now, these are the few types of abuse. Coming to the features of the abuser, who abuses the parents, older parents. They are usually often 30 years or less than 30 years or more than 60 years, either of the male or female. They are usually the close relative or a caregiver, and he'll be living with the abuser, the abused elder with them in the family. And the abuser may be psychologically stressed or depressed, or he has some financial issues, whether he has gone loan, or he has a bad failure in the business, or he's in need of a lot of money, or he's a drug addict, he needs more money. So he keeps abusing their parents for want of money. Now coming to how to identify the clinicians. So if there are the delays between injuries or illness and seeking more attention, medical attention by the older people, if there is a differing case histories from patient and caregiver, most of the times it happens in the clinical scenario. The old person is not allowed to talk. The daughter-in-law gives you the history, and once the daughter-in-law goes out, the old man starts giving the real history, that no, what she told is wrong. I didn't fell, I was pushed or something of those issues. Sometimes you'll be surprised to know. Then frequent visits to the emergency departments should suspect that the old man is abused, and laboratory findings that are inconsistent with the history provided always suspect that patient is undergoing abuse or has been abused. Okay. Now, what is the impact of abuse on health? It has a very, that's why we call it as a medico-social issue. It has very negative impact on health of the older people, like the parameters like the blood pressure, diabetes. They never reach the baseline despite giving maximum drugs. It leads to depression, suicidal ideas, and very poor quality of life in older people. Studies have shown that the older people who are abused, they live 2 years less than what the counterpart older people who have not been abused. And frequent visits to emergency departments with their neighbors and not with the family members, and unexpected sudden worsening of the medical problems where you don't have found the reason and think that it can be an elder abuse. Now, earlier they thought that we can screen all the older people coming to the hospital that are they abused, and it didn't work out, because see, a nursing staff or paramedical staff comes and asks the elder abuse that does your son hit you, or have you been financially abused, or does your daughter-in-law doesn't take care of you. How can an older person use answers to the unknown man, a stranger, when their own kids and kins are abusing him or her? Okay, so most of the scales that were produced to screen abuse in the older people, and they could not pick up because older people didn't want to reveal that they are abused in the society, because it was a question of the dignity. It was a question of the dignity. Why should I tell what is happening wrong with me? And it can be reflect bad on me and my family. I have brought dignity to my family over last 30 years, and I don't want to do just by telling that I am being abused by my children. So keeping those things in mind, what we at the geriatric clinic we did was we formed a questionnaire for clinician to detect elder abuse in older people. This is available on online too, where it is only the observation. You don't have to ask any questions to the older persons. It is only the observation of the 15 points and do the markings. And these markings will take place over a period of 2 to 3 subsequent visits and not in one visit. And then you can decide whether the given older man is being abused or not. Okay. Now there is a law to prevent elder abuse and fight against elder abuse for the older people. That is called the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007, which will be again amended, which was tried to be amended in 2019, but it could not be. Maybe this year it will get amended with some more stringent acts on it. So this act is there by the Government of India. It's a very strong act, and many seniors are not aware about it. Even if they are aware, they don't go to the police station and file a complaint because they fear the dignity. And third is they have to depend upon the abuser. If the 80-year-old man, if he goes and complains and he fears the retaliation, and his son may just stop giving him money or giving him food. So he fears that there will be retaliation, and what he does is he avoids filing a case against them. And the quantum of punishment is though less, but there is a punishment, and the case goes free of cost for the person who filed the case. And as I kept telling you, the older people are dependent upon their abuser, hence they try to avoid putting the case against them. The very recent advances is elder abuse forensics. So what has been done now in most of the European countries is that they are studying the signs of abuse at autopsy. So once they do find the signs during autopsy, they will go back to the case histories, or they will talk to their family members, and softly they will try to know whether the older person has been abused or not. This is going on, the research is going on. It's the latest thing happening, elder abuse forensics. And for all the students, I like to request you that there is a lot of scope for research in elder abuse. This is a basic hot topic that is being discussed all over the world at the sociologist level, even at the medical level. And if you think that this can be further explored at your society levels and even in the college level or the institution level where the patients are admitted, you are most welcome to do certain research on this topic. So as a student, as a clinician, what you have to see is see subtle signs of elder abuse, which I have been talking about: physical, psychological, sexual abuse, and financial abuse. Here all the perspectives. So this is very, very important. The old man wants you to listen to them. Listening is the best communication. And if he comes to know that this is a doctor who is listening to me, after 3 or 4 visits he'll open up what is happening in the family, and that is good. Once he opens up, he cries in a clinic and he feels that, sir, I'm now feeling better. My heart has become, what was very heavy, now it has become very light. And over the period of time, you will start seeing there is a good level control of his blood pressure and the sugar levels, and his overall improvement is there. And he comes and keep talking to you. That's what he does. And please try to understand the cultural issues, what the person is having. Accordingly, we have to interfere and feel confident in approach and act with the support of team. I like to clarify here that as a clinician, as a doctor, it is none of our business to interfere into their family affairs. We can identify the ill effects of abuse in the older person. We can make it a point to note that, yes, this older man has been abused by whoever is the family members. And third, we have to counsel the same older man how to overcome this. Fourth, in case if you have a good relation with the family members, you can just counsel them, but never tell them that you're doing wrong. You are abusing your parents. This is not good of you. Never tell like that. But you can counsel them. You can tell if these are the aspects that is happening on the older person. See, he has got suicidal ideas. If something wrong happens, then it comes to the family matters. So please take care of him. That's how we softly can tell him. And always you should take the support of the team or their neighbors or the family friends, best family friends. In treating, you have to take the support of your psychiatrist and psychologist to help them overcome the depression and the psychological strain. Now, all students should know that not all senior citizens are saints and not all youngsters are sinners. Very, very important. Just because the old man comes and tells you that my son does like this, my daughter-in-law does like this, they are very bad. Okay, just listen and sit quiet. Maybe you will have to talk to them after some time in the second session or third session when they are coming, not telling that, no, your father was telling like this. You never reveal that. But how this old man behaves in your home, even if you just ask like that, you will come to know that this old man may be having some adjustment problems. So that what all happens. here in the family. We have to try to know, but never try to interfere into their personal affairs. Try to treat what are the ill effects of the abuse on his mind, and how best we can do counseling, and how best we can ensure that he has a faith in you and confidence in you, and he keeps telling and revealing so many things, and you take the psychological aspect, take the depression, put him on some positive efforts, and he will come out of that. That's what we do in our geriatric practice. We have a good, very psychiatrist and psychologist team, and all patients whom I diagnose as anti-abuse, take them personally. We sit with the psychiatrist and try to find out whether he's depressed or he has got suicidal ideas, and then we treat accordingly and ensure that they visit us in frequently till they get all right. Now, to conclude, abuse in elderly is silent in two aspects. The elderly people, they accept abuse as a part of the old age, or they blame themselves that this is not the way I could have brought out my children. And second, the abuse in elderly has negative impact on health, and all those surfaces only when they are admitted for emergencies, especially when he is in delirium. He will be shouting at his son or daughter-in-law because that has somewhere in his conscious mind is there that he has been abused, and he comes out of this when admitted for emergencies. And some older people may not tolerate this, and they like to end their life as to get rid of abuse. And there are hurdles, as I told you. The clinicians are not trained or not to identify the elder abuse. So it can be taken as a comorbid and not a diagnosis. And most of the times we need counseling, and we need to assist them in identifying as well as overcoming the psychological or ill effects on health by a team of doctors. So the take-home message is abuse in elderly should be considered as a comorbid condition and not a diagnosis. It is silent. It is silent. And only when the old people cries in your clinic, or they say they keep coming alone and they keep coming to you to meet you, only when all the patients are over and they come as the last person to talk to you, and they want to reveal, sir, this is my problem, I want your help. So that is what clinicians should know. And the abuse in older people leads to delayed recovery and surfacing of many hidden diseases. And of course, there's a lot of scope on research on elder abuse. All the students can think of taking this as a research topic. So I thank you all for this patient sharing. If you have got any questions, any doubts to ask, you can mail me short@yahoo.com, anandamli@yahoo.com, or even if you have any issues, please share with me. We can be helpful to you. Thank you very much.